Let's talk to Paul Harris now, though, editor of the Jewish Telegraph. Paul, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning.
More hostages released at the weekend, thankfully. So we've got some good news to impart. Finally, I understand you were present when they appeared.
Well, I was in hostage choir on Saturday, absorbing all the emotions there, and my goodness, the emotions were running high, really, really high. Any differences were put apart. There were no protests against the government. There was a sheer unbridled joy, a lot of tears. Feelings were running very, very deep indeed. And it's something unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It was really, really, really emotional.
Incredible to watch just on TV, so I can't imagine what it must be like to physically be there. Thankfully, the four young women actually looked reasonably well, didn't they? I mean, obviously nobody could possibly know what they've been through and how awful it was for them. They were also released by Hamas in sort of what looked like army uniforms, which was sort of their, I suppose, version of propaganda, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we now understand that the backdrop, I don't speak Arabic, contained Hamas propaganda. The way they were paraded on stage was not pleasant, no. But the looks on their faces really transcended that. The sheer joy on their faces told it all. And seeing them reunited with their families, I think it would take a hard man or woman for it not to bring tears to their eyes. But you know, countering that, looking at the images on screen at the moment of the behavior of Hamas. I mean, they're not militants, these are terrorists. Yeah. I mean, it's the way to release hostages. I'm sorry to say, but this is the new breed of Hamas. This is the next generation of Hamas. Yeah. This is alarming. It's frightening to watch it. Yes. Really, really, really alarming. You know, Netanyahu has made it his aim to rid Gaza of Hamas, to rid it of all the terrorists. Looking at this, I'm afraid there are plenty more.
Unfortunately, yeah, because I mean, the terrible thing that image gives me is it gives me a reminder of what happened on October the 7th, when they returned to Gaza in all those pickup trucks with hostages, some of whom were already dead, parading them through the streets, spitting on them. You know, it's that kind of vibe, isn't it?
It looks absolutely identical. The scenes are not dissimilar. And, you know, I've just come back from Israel. I'm speaking from a hotel at Heathrow at the moment. I got back late last night. I've been down south. I've been for the second time in a few weeks to the site of the Nova Festival. I've spoken to the relatives and friends of people who were killed by Hamas, murdered by Hamas. I've met people who lived through October the 7th, 2023, listening to their horrendous stories, walking around the kibbutzim, seeing the houses where people were deliberately burnt alive. I walked in the remains of these houses and to see people's belongings. They're still there, a lot of the belongings, suitcases, personal possessions, children's toys. It's alarming. So, you know, it's bittersweet, this, very bittersweet. It's tinged with sadness, how, you know, there's the joy of the hostages being released, but there are so many more there, and we have absolutely no idea what condition they're in, whether they're alive, whether they're dead. I mean, they're being sadistic, Hamas, the way they're actually doing the hostage release. We know there are babies still there. We don't know their fate. We don't know some of the older people, what their fate is. We don't know what's happened to some of these women. We've heard rumors of pregnancies. So it's bittersweet. It's tinged with sadness, but Israelis would just love to see the rest of the hostages released. This is what it's all about. You go all over Israel. There are posters there. Bring them back. You walk through the airport, and it's absolutely heartbreaking walking back through to departure area where there are teddy bears. There are even bags of crisps and sweets, some of the favorite snacks of the youngsters who are still being held hostage. You've got football scarves of the team that some of the other hostages support. It really, really is still heartbreaking.
It is, yeah. absolutely awful.
You know, it's bittersweet.
Yes, absolutely. And the next phase of hostage release is expected when? I'm looking at pictures this morning of thousands of Palestinians returning to northern Gaza now as we speak, after a hostage agreement. Yet another hostage agreement has been reached. They've released another 200, I think, Palestinians from prison in Israel. And so I guess the nightmare will go on for a while.
It will, but I think we mustn't forget that there's a parallel. Today is Holocaust Memorial Day.
Yeah.
This is a parallel because the state of Israel was born out of the ashes of the Holocaust. And, you know, I made a trip to Auschwitz a couple of weeks ago and featured it in my newspaper. I've been many, many, many times, but nothing inures you to what you see there. No. The sheer scale of the murder. I mean, this was a killing machine on an industrial scale. And this is why Israel just cannot tolerate terrorists in their midst. This is supposed to be a safe haven for Jews. This is what the state of Israel was all about. And yet Israelis are living in daily fear of terror attacks, rocket attacks, and there's a very, very much a parallel with Holocaust Memorial Day.
And the ceasefire, I guess, at this moment anyway, is still holding from both sides, yeah?
Yes, I'd like to believe that it's going to last, but I'm very dubious. I mean, people tend to forget this is only a 6-week ceasefire. It's only a cessation, a pause in the hostilities. I think if there is even a minor incursion of any sort, if there's any minor transgression by Hamas, the Israeli troops will be straight in. You know, I've seen they're still very much there on the border. I was on the Gaza border just last week, and you know, the troops are there. They're waiting. If anything goes wrong, they'll be back in, believe me.
Yeah, absolutely right. Paul, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Harris, editor of the Jewish Telegraph, there reporting in from his travels. He was in Israel at the weekend when those hostages were released, and thank goodness from their family's point of view, and more hostages to be released on Thursday.